Perfect.
So hi everyone, Dr. Dan Ritchie, President of the Functional Aging Institute. We're going to get rolling here with another webinar on anchor point training. And Chris Severs, the innovator and inventor, creator of the art of anchor point training, is here with us. And today we're really going to talk about his new certification course. And I think he's going to have a lot of insights into all sorts of things anchored training, whether it's resistance bands, ropes, suspension, you name it. He comes up with all sorts of ways. So Chris, I threw the controls to you. Up at the top you should see a big button that says show my screen. So I'm going to take my ugly mug off of, hold on just a second. I'm going to take my camera off and let people just see what you've got. And Chris, thanks so much for doing this. Take it away, buddy.
All right, great. So you folks can see that main screen there then. My name is Severs. Thanks for your interest. Is that what you've got up there?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Guys, I'm just going to run through a series of slides put together to give you an overview of a little bit of background on who I am and how I came to be doing this. Anchor point training is basically a very useful way to train with anchored resistance. The overview that I've developed is appropriate for training with straps, bands, a pulling sled, cable machine, a landmine, battle ropes for that matter. The training you do standing on your feet. It's very movement-based. I first got into anchor point training. I was developing an anchor system, a very versatile anchor system, and I worked with folks like the National Ballet in Toronto. I worked of mixed martial arts gyms in Quebec, worked with a physiotherapist there. You can see those curved anchor pieces there. Those anchors, that was basically what got me into developing anchor point training equipment. It became apparent that there was a paradigm overview that evolved with this. About 3 years ago, I moved to California, Southern California, and I started to present the overview itself to a number of different places, to different gyms. I presented to some NASM students at California Arts College. I presented at the NorCal Fitness Summit in 2013. It was the first time I actually presented the overview based on the anchor point, the connection with the anchor, and the orientation. Presenting for the first time, which is very exciting for me. I've been working closely with the Fit Body Bootcamp, the single largest group of adopters to the anchor point training gear that I've developed. It's been a great proving ground. In fact, the anchor point training overview that we've developed for the course was first developed to train the trainers and the owners of the Fit Body Bootcamp franchises, and a lot of them have already taken the course, and so we've really proved it out with that. Cody, boy, they were just really fundamental in helping me get the education of this program together. We connected because I'm a senior, and I train a lot of seniors, and when they saw what I was doing, they were supportive right out of the gate, and have been now for a couple of years. Just wanted to sort of give you a few of the endorsements we've received. Cody wrote this lovely endorsement for us. You can see the Fit Body Bootcamp and the Fit Body Forever folks. We actually have set a certification with those guys. Two of the owners that have done the training, just writing their comment here. It's really gratifying, you know, once you actually create something like this and people take the course and then they come back and say, wow, you know, it really has improved my understanding. These two guys are icons in the industry, and I guess there's a lot of icons in the industry. When people who've been here a long time support and you are definitely, in the vanguard of the evolution of the industry. It's also really, really lifts me up. So look, what is the overview? Basically, there are three aspects to this. There is the anchor, the connection, and the orientation. And I'm going to spend a little time talking about these three elements. There are a number of other aspects to it, but it's very easy. If you consider that in any resisted range of motion, there is a summation of forces in the body that are mechanical. Now, if you're working with anchored resistance, there are three elements in this formula that are external to the body, and that's what this course is about, is fully understanding how you can manage those three elements to create the summation of forces that you want to create in the body for any range of motion, for any need. And they are the anchor, how you're connected to the anchored resistance, regardless of what type of resistance it is, and your orientation to the anchor. And by that I mean basically your connection to the ground. Are you moving? Are you static? Are you in a lunged position? What is the surface you're on? A slippery surface, very difficult to train on. Sand, where I train most days, very different than a regular floor. So there's a lot of different things. The thing that's great about anchor point training is useful anchors are everywhere. We do a lot of training on the beach here, Long Beach. You can train in a park. Anywhere you can create a solid anchor, you have the capability of, if you understand of creating tremendous variety in your programming. This is the ARC, which is a purpose-built anchor system I developed, and having these angles in this design really allowed me to accelerate my understanding of anchor point training, and doing this exclusively really for over 5 years now. These anchors you see here in a commercial environment, you see these wall anchors. Also, a lot of commercial gyms have these squat racks or these rigs built. These are all what
Hey,
the
Chris,
advantages of anchor point training is very space-effective approach.
Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Your mic
I can.
Your mic is cutting in and out, not consistently, but like,
okay.
I don't know if you're moving or if there's something you're doing, but like it sounds great, and then all of a sudden you kind of get garbled, and then you come back. So I don't know if there's something you're doing, but just want to make you aware of that.
All right. Okay, thank you. I'll stop moving and talk slower.
That might help. That might help.
That might help too. I get wound up. In case you guys haven't noticed, I really do. I love doing this. I'm passionate about it, and so there you go. So just to recap, so basically there are, whether you're in a gym environment, whether you're outdoors, even if you're at home, right? The gear we've designed, you can create a door anchor, and so the idea of anchor point training, it's a knowledge-based practice that you can basically do anywhere, and it's all about learning all the different ways you can connect to the force. Another aspect of anchoring, for example, with bands is the ability to, for example, create a high and a low anchor. We talk about low, waist-high, overhead anchors, how you can use those different angles to create specific work, useful variety. When we're talking about suspension, overhead versus an anchor on a wall, again, offers different capabilities as well. We talk about connection. We're really, that part of the overview, we talk about a lot of different and demonstrate a lot of different anchored resistance. One example here, you can see, basically doing scapular retractions with a strap around your shoulder. And as well, I've only got one shoulder attached there. The picture on the right, that's a whole protocol for concussion prevention. There are lots and lots of different ways that you can create really useful connections with anchored resistance, whether it's a strap or a band, or a sled, or a landmine, or even a battle rope. This particular set of slides here, you can see we've got the bar with two hands or asymmetric connection, with a single handle, also quite useful and for very specific work and for variety. Here you can see just harnessed up to a sled. Used pull sleds for a lot of different ways, not always necessarily with a harness or a belt, even just pulling them with a handle. And then on the right there, just a piece of wood through a handle, again to train grip strength, which is a very useful thing for for everything, really. You can see here two sort of fundamental ways you can connect for pulling. One is a harness, the other is a belt. For specific things, the harness is a higher center of gravity. What the belt allows you to do is create different orientations to the anchor, and this is for the third element of the paradigm. We talk about how we use the anchor to, for example, for various pulling drills. Here, in fact, we're using orientation and connection to the anchor with a strap for assisted stretching, sort of like a yoga strap approach. There's lots and lots of different ways to employ orientation for that. Suspended variations and movement progressions for different needs. Here you can see these folks are seniors, and the straps are in fact there to help them either scale the resistance so they can do pushing exercises, or on the right-hand picture, this is basically helping them for doing squats, where it's actually an assist that they use to help them move. We're working with elastic bands, and anytime you're working with anchored resistance and you have the opportunity to move dynamically, while we're pushing or pulling or working rotation, with this type of gear, now create new movement patterns. You can, press and lunge ipsilaterally, contralaterally. You can work on different angles. Anytime you're working new movement patterns, this is demanding for the central nervous system as well, and it is the type of variety that's going to, a better adaptation response. But repetition is, I say often, repetition is absolutely necessary if you're developing a skill. But if you're training, really, repetition, you want more variety. Repetition is diminishing returns. So I think in training regime, the more variety we can put in that is obviously thought through, the better off we are. And anchor point training is approaches because there's so many angle resistance, so many different ways to connect with the resistance, so many different ways to move in relation to the resistance. It's really, it's just a really deep well of things, and managing it, you just need that high view of those three basic elements, and then a lot of that programming comes to you logically. So here again, just to sort of reiterate the advantages, three-dimensional resistance. You can create resistance for all kinds of functional movements. It's very scalable. Distance from the anchor is fundamental. It's very much about full body movements, very much about training on your feet, although you train with where you're on an apparatus like a ball or you're sitting, but most of that training is done on your feet. Versatile connections, different kinds of resistance, versatile resistance angles, those are the three elements that you can really manage to create the variety and the specific demands that you need for different things. The whole approach is, the gear is portable, it's space effective, so this makes it massively convenient, whether you're training yourself, whether you're training clients, whether you're training a group in a park or people in their homes. It's very, very practical approach. And it's a knowledge-based approach, so there's progression and progression and more progression. Just a reiteration of the the benefits here: full body functional movement, time and cost effective, it's convenient, it's fresh demands, designed resistance, and the ability to evolve a progressive practice. Some of the things that we cover in the course, besides giving you this depth on this overview, we talk about serape training. In other words, how you're connecting with bands, with handles directly to your body. We explore oscillation, which is a very interesting way to use long elastic. We look at elastic resistance specifically and some of the really unique things you can do with elastic resistance, and not at all like gravity or suspension. We look at suspension straps and some of the ways you can really maximize what you get out of that approach. And we just basically are going to give you lots and lots and lots of pushing, pulling, pressing, rowing, and cross-body movement patterns, and a large library of exercises with the program. There are literally hundreds of videos on the Anchor Point Training Facebook page. The overview, when you look at all that work, you start to look at it with a much more critical, a much more educated eye. And once you have the overview, it'll not only improve how you're going to train with bands and straps, you'll get ideas about training with cable machines, landmines, battle ropes, and pulling sled as well. Got a lot of questions. Basically, the most frequently asked questions we see. So you don't have to be a trainer to take the course. It's certainly going to help. If you are a trainer, you will be able to get continuing education credit from a large group of organizations. There is a test. It's 60 questions. You have an hour. You need to get 80% to pass. The course itself is about 4 hours of reading and 5 hours of video content. There is an 80 movement library that you get with the course, and there are a 4-part progression of a 4-minute and a 10-minute anchor point training routine module. Sort of shows you how I put these things together, and there are hundreds of videos on the Anchor Point Training Facebook page, and I'm publishing videos every week on that page. The course itself is you can take it online. It's mobile friendly as well, and if any of you are interested in hosting a live Anchor Point Training workshop, I'd be delighted to certainly it's part of this course has been launched. It's part of my plan to travel around and do workshops around the country as well. So we're introducing this program now, and we're putting it out at 50% off because we want to get people starting to use this, get feedback, and start to beat the drum. So we're coming out with a very aggressive price proposition. This price is good, I believe, until the end of August, and after that, that price will go up to $200. There's a complete no risk, no hassle guarantee. If there's anything about this that just you didn't like, you didn't find useful, not satisfied, we will refund 100% of your money. No hassles, no questions asked. Please just don't say bad things about us, because we're going to give you back your money. We haven't had anything like that, but we stand behind everything. Doing 100%, that's really the bottom line. So there you go, guys. Look, it's an introductory offer. Overview. Learn how to master anchor point training. I think you'll find if you love to train that this is going to really open you up to a lot of new ideas about how to use anchored resistance, and going forward, always be able to, presented with an anchor point, you'll know what you can do with any one anchor point. You can do a tremendous amount of things. and it'll give you other ideas about how to train depending on what your needs are. I'll tell you, this is such a versatile approach to training. There are applications for elite athletes, there are applications for seniors, there are applications for general training, there are really applications.
So Chris, do you have the website where people would
well.
go? Chris?
Yes, anchorpointtraining.com is, and that's, I don't have that in my slide presentation. I really should, right? Yeah, guys, an anchor.
So I think it's
well, there you go.
I think it's Anchor Point. I put it in the chat box for the entire audience. I think it's anchorpointtraining.com/certification for the course.
Oh, great. Okay,
so,
there you go. Thank you, Dan.
So are you ready to open it up for questions, Chris? Comments, feedback, or do you have more?
Yeah.
I know.
No, that's it.
Okay, great.
Better is always possible.
We've got a small group left here. Sorry about Chris's audio. I'm not sure if it's my internet connection or yours, Chris, but you were cutting out just a little bit here and there, and I don't think it's your mic because you sound crystal clear and then you sound kind of garbled. So anyway, let's do Q&A.
Next time I do this, I'll set up. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably next time we can have you hop on the phone because then the phone will be clear. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But I don't know. It's kind of weird why you're clear and then you're not clear. So, but we can do it again sometime here in the future. So, for any of you on live, we'd love to have questions to fire at Chris here. So go ahead and pepper us with your questions. And if you are at IDEA this week, I know Chris is going to be at IDEA showing off his goods and doing a couple presentations as well. So make sure you stop by and see both the FAI booth and the Anchor Point Training booth. Any questions from anyone? Boy, they're just pouring in, Chris. I'm looking at the questions. So no questions so far. Okay, Chris Green has a question. Did you say the intro price was good through the end of August? Is that what you said, Chris? Intro price of $99, good through the end of August. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Chris, you got about 6 weeks, and I think he did say 60-day money-back guarantee. So that's certainly a good deal, and you've got till the end of August. Gina, I am currently taking the certification and enjoying it.
Oh, hi, Gina.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for telling us that. Don asks, what is the optimal small group size for this instruction? Well, I'll answer that, and I'll let you answer it, Chris. Having reviewed the course, and obviously you filmed most of it at my studio, so I honestly think you can take this certification for yourself in terms of your own personal movement. You can take this for one-on-one training. You can take it for small group personal training, which is how we use it at my studio, and you can take it all the way up to large boot camps. So what would you add to that, Chris?
Well, if you're leading a group, which is how I like to do it, half a dozen to 10 people, again, it depends. As long as your anchor point, you've got a good anchor point, that's really the key. In terms of me teaching the course, I wasn't so sure whether it was like if you're training anchor point training down to how much space you've got, and if people can move, one central anchor point, people can work all around it in a circle. In the boot camps, we have anchored stations. We have 20 feet. We put 4 to 5 feet apart along a wall, and then we're all working off of that. That's another way to work with anchor point training.
Yeah.
But I've worked off a tree with the whole.
People, at the summit where you were doing all sorts of folks, were you working off the palm trees there?
At the summit, we worked. We worked off palm trees this year. Last year, we worked off of flag poles.
Yeah, and you had good size group. So I want to ask Don, just to clarify, because I'm curious, if you're asking optimal small group size for training clients or for instruction. Just to clarify, in case you're interested in hosting a workshop to train trainers, just want to get clarity if you're talking about training clients or training trainers, which I think the principles are similar. When Chris was training trainers at our Functional Aging Summit, he had groups of 10 or so out there anchored to palm trees. So let's get to the really, if you want to respond to that, Don, feel free. Let's get to the hot question here. Chris is going to have fun with this one. So Ari Freeman Cohen asks, what is the difference between APT and TRX?
Okay, so first of all, TRX is suspension, and anchor point training, in fact, the overview will help you train with suspension or elastic resistance or anchored tool. So TRX is an anchor point training tool that has a very specific design that has some benefits and some limitations. Every design is like that. I've designed equipment myself and it has specific advantages over the TRX based on, for the most part, the connection. The more versatile connection capability you have with a tool, the more possibilities you have. But the anchor point training overview is appropriate for any suspension tool. TRX, the RIP trainer, the TRX RIP trainer, or the RIP 60, which is that tool that has a reciprocating suspension, or the Jungle Gym, for example. Here's an interesting, to talk specifically about the anchor point. In the TRX anchor point, you have a limited amount of instability, and that offers some things, but it also is a limiting factor in other regards. If you have a suspended tool where there is no limited instability, in other words, that anchor point is solid, if that anchor point is at a single point versus, say, 2 points, shoulder width apart, again, the lines of pull are going to be different. And any of these differences are going to be inherently advantageous for certain things and not for other things. Having full reciprocation with suspension, very, very different than no reciprocation at all. The overview of when you've got a suspension tool in your hands, you'll have a sense of, from the anchor point of view, what you can and can't do and what good for and what is probably not good for. That, and I could give you my whole pluses and minuses on the TRX, but that's not what I'm here for today.
Right. All right. Okay. Any final questions? Don did clarify he's looking at doing a workshop for clients, possibly leading to some one-on-one training, so that would be great. Howard has a question. As far as equipment, what would you suggest a trainer start out with?
I designed equipment, and I will tell you that I think my equipment is state-of-the-art, so I think you should buy my equipment. But really, you need is, if you've already got a suspension strap, that's what you need, and then a resistance band. Again, those are tools that you can anchor that are very useful. If you have access to a cable machine, everything that you'll be able to use that information to improve how you're using the anchor point training. Will offer sorry.
Chris, do you have a contact slide? I can give people your email address if they want to ask you, for more specific equipment recommendations or where they should go to get, the XYZ. Do you have a contact slide, or I can post your email right here if you're comfortable with that, and then Howard could reach out to you directly.
Well, just, you know what, Chris, C-H-R-I-S, and I'll make a contact slide, Dan. That's a really good idea. Guys, really, this is, by the way, my first time doing a webinar. I really appreciate that you guys are here and asking me these good questions. So, Chris, C-R-I-S.
Yeah, I put it up in the chat box, chris@anchorpointtraining.com. Howard did clarify, Chris. He's looking at your equipment only. So so if he was to start out with your equipment only, I'm guessing you're saying a suspension strap and we have a whole
package. You know, you get a strap, you get a band, you get.
You know, the one thing I keep telling Chris, folks, is that he's got to raise his prices because he's giving his stuff away, but he is passionate about it. So I'm pretty sure you can get a band and a strap for the same price, maybe even less than a single TRX. So so I mean, it really is a great deal, Howard, if you're just starting out as a trainer. We've got I want to say we've got a strap and 2 bands in each of our training studios, and with that, the 2 bands allow us to train 4 clients at the same time because each band has a handle. And so I mean, if you're a trainer just starting out, 1 strap, 2 bands, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. But even just the 1 strap, 1 band setup is a great deal. One of these days, Chris is going to catch on and raise his prices, so beware. But for right now, his stuff is still a great deal. So we've got it in both our studios and love it and do all kinds of stuff with it. So and the nice thing I tell people, you know, when people ask me, Howard, what sort of equipment should you start out with? It's like, well, it depends on how much you want to spend, right? I mean, you know, how much gear do you want in your studio? The nice thing about Chris's gear is for $200, you have got the ability to do all sorts of exercises that it used to cost thousands of dollars to buy cable machines and, you know, anchored systems and, you know, pull-up bars and just, I mean, so much gear and space. And now, I mean, you can see from his slide here, the bands basically hang on the wall. They don't take up any space when they're not being used, and so you can do all kinds of other things. You don't have this big cable machine in the middle of your gym, you know. So so if you're looking for low cost, you know, and efficient and effective, do all the things you want to do, this is definitely great stuff to start with. So, well, Chris, thanks so much for your time today. We'll see if anybody else has a final question, but thanks so much for your time today. I know you're a busy guy. You've got IDEA coming up and thousands of personal trainers to get ready for. We will definitely revisit with you again here soon and follow up as to how the gear and the certification program are coming. Excited to hear when you hit 500 folks in the Anchor Point Training Certification course. That means obviously people are using more long resistance and suspension correctly. So thanks again, Chris, for all you're doing.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, and folks, thanks so much for tuning into the webinar. Any more questions, reach out to me, email, away. Thanks.